There's a little bit of a news blackout, folks. I don't know if you've noticed this, but some of the stories out there are not getting out. And while we may at least first look at bias and say, well, they don't really mean it, but they're just not paying attention to this thing. We have 25 states that have joined with Texas to talk about what's going on with the border, to stand up to the federal government. This is one of the biggest news, well, this is the biggest news story this year for the United States, and quite possibly the biggest news story this decade for the United States. We got a lot of big stuff happening. When's the last time we had over half the states stare down the federal government and say, no, you will not, and we're going to send armed troops to make sure you don't? That's kind of a big deal, folks. Now, we're not talking about ragtag militias and of just random people showing up. We're talking about state troopers. We're talking about National Guardsmen. We're talking about state guards being deployed. We're talking about actual military-trained individuals and police officers. We're not talking about random people. We're talking about states standing up and saying, we have legitimate authority and we're going to push back on the illegitimate authority of the federal government. We got a lot to talk about, friends, especially the news blackout out there, what we can do about it, and whether or not we really should be standing with Texas in this one. All right, friends, let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And on this channel, we try to cover those stories that the mainstream media is not. We cover breaking, relevant news here. All right, so this is obviously the biggest story out there. I just got my Texas flag. I'm not really into whole southern stuff. I am a northerner. I am a Pittsburgher. I'm a Pennsylvanian. And so I've never had a Texas flag, but now I do. And if you guys at all think about that, you might want to have a flag too. That way you can show your support. If you're in a weird place where Texas flags aren't very typical and suddenly a whole bunch of Texas flags suddenly crop out of the ground, people might start asking the question, what in the world's going on? Because this story is not being reported by the mainstream media by and large. And when they do, they really are butchering it. Is it a story? According to Wall Street Journal, nope, not a story. They didn't cover it. Yeah, that's right. 25 states standing up to the federal government. Governor Abbott saying, you know what? Tough. I'm going to keep building the fence anyway. And we're now hearing from Border Patrol agents that they're not going to cut the fence. And politically, can you imagine them trying to do so? President Biden would be, let's just say he'd lose all the cities. Most of the ethnic minorities in the United States do not really approve of all these people coming across the border illegally. Because they're losing their benefits, they're losing their jobs, they're getting overcrowded, they're being kicked to the street because these people coming across the border apparently have a higher priority than anyone else. Citizens here, people who have been here for a very long time, they do not have priority over these people coming across the border, according to federal governments, nonprofit organizations, Red Cross, Catholic charities, all these things. New York Times, nope, didn't cover it. What? They have like a bazillion articles. Oh yes, they have some really stupid, weird articles in the last month or so, last couple weeks. But nope, nothing about what's going on down the border. MSNBC, it's a big surprise. They just total blackout there. NPR, nope, didn't cover it. CNN, they didn't cover it until they started covering it from the angle that that Governor Abbott wants to build more barbed wire fences in order to trap migrants so that they drown. Which, it's a stationary fence. How does it make you drown? That's just a question. How does a stationary fence that's on dry ground make you drown? But someone's got to go ask the CNN folks because apparently it makes sense to them. We have Wired magazine covering the convoy, right? The protest. And this is what they said. Far-right extremists are organizing an armed convoy to the Texas border. one, it's a protest, and two, it's not armed. They're explicitly saying not to come armed. And far-right extremists, they're not far-right extremists if they're the majority of a state, like the second most populous state in the Union. That's not how that works. I know according to Common Core math that seems to work, but to the news media, they need to start getting it through their head that if 50% of the population of the United States votes for a candidate or more, all of those people are not far-right extremists. Just because you've moved your party so hard to the left, that liberals are now being called, liberals from the 2000s are being called far-right extremists now. It's absolutely insane. People who have voted Democrat all their lives, they've been told all their life that they are a flaming liberal. Just because they didn't move along with the party to the radical leftist insanity that they've moved to. I mean, J.K. Rowling is now being called a far-right extremist because she's just like, no, there's a difference between men and women, right? Just that basic statement has gotten her canceled. So we have these media people, and this is good news. This is good news that the censorship industrial complex, the mainstream media, is dying. The fact that we have so many folks like you coming to this channel and going to channels like this one. I get it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Some of you guys are like, you absolutely like this person over here or that team of those people. And really, most of the channels that are this size or bigger really are a team of people working on it together. The newsletters that they put out, the research that they do. Most channels are more than one person as it is, and this one is definitely as well. I don't have anyone helping me with cameras and that kind of stuff, but I get some help with working through comments and everything like that, and newsletter. But we're building a new media empire that's more focused on truth and content than it is on formalities. Speaking of formalities, you guys let me know if that thing should stay up there. Is it distracting? Should I just leave that up there for a couple weeks, or should I get back to the plain wall? You guys let me know about that. I'm definitely still a Pittsburgher, though. Okay, even though I hate how Pennsylvania runs its roads department and basically everything else in Pennsylvania, the blue state that it is just, it's just run terribly. I'd love to get a little further away, but I have some reasons to stay, including my church family and friends and everything like that here. But yeah, definitely an interesting perspective living in a blue state. And it shouldn't be a blue state. It should be a purple state. It should really be a red state, but you know, with the way things are counted and all that kind of stuff like that, apparently it's now a blue state because all the dead people and all the people that don't exist voting, all that kind of stuff, all those extra pieces of paper that keep arriving whenever they're needed in the dead of night. So we got the news media doing an intentional news blackout about this. One of the things you can do is you can share videos, right? You know how to do that? There's like a little share button underneath on your phone. The share button, you can share stuff on Facebook. You might get canceled if you share it on Facebook. But you can email. It has like an email thing there. You can copy. I'm not just saying for my videos. If you find good videos that are covering good stuff out there on YouTube, you can share those, right? If you find good articles, look for the share buttons and share those things directly with people. If you can email it directly to people, that's awesome. Try not to spam people that don't really want it, but share things with people that do want to hear those things, right? And we're definitely going to keep our best up, sharing good articles over on our website, thepoplarreport.com. Try to keep things flowing over on the Twitter account, keeping you up to date. We had a big story that kind of came out late last night where a whole bunch of refueling jets were headed over across the Atlantic. And everyone's there like, is this the major airstrike that's good? You know, are they launching a major airstrike against Iran or against somewhere? And it turns out that that was apparently more for refueling of aircraft for a major NATO exercise over Europe. A lot of cargo planes were moving, and so a bunch of people were kind of jumping on that. And so I kind of threw the facts up on Twitter without saying what it might be, because it wasn't clear what it was at that time. But you know, all of the countries out there, they have access to all this information. I know some people are out there like, you shouldn't be sharing this stuff online. It's like, it's already online. It's public knowledge. You know that these countries are all watching the actual data themselves. They're not waiting for Twitter to let them know something might be happening. And if they really were doing an operation, they really should be having their transponders off, because having them on is just a little too open and obvious. But anyway, what do we do? What do we do from here? How can we rebuild a media that actually is trustworthy? A media that actually tells us what's going on and what's happening. We're trying to. There's few enough actual networks like Epoch News and websites out there, blogs, Twitter accounts that are sharing information, and then a lot of YouTube channels right now. But what should this look like? Tucker Carlson is out there on Twitter, basically. I'm not going to call it X, Twitter, and he's trying to make a channel there. He's trying to get information out from there, and he seems to be doing fairly well at this point. But I know a lot of you guys think Rumble is the answer to things, but there's a reason why most creators are not really on Rumble. I mean, they may dabble on it a little bit. There's good reasons why that's not really super viable. It's difficult to use, and it's, you know, there's a bunch of reasons for that. Patreon is an avenue that a lot of people are using these days. I personally don't like that model, but I don't subscribe to Patreon accounts, and I imagine a lot of you guys probably don't either. I believe that it's better to have to reach more people, and make things up that way, advertising-wise, as opposed to just asking for subscriptions. Not a knock on people that do that, but we need all sorts. But what is the replacement for CNN? What's the replacement for Fox News, right? How do we replace it? And unfortunately, right now, we have a bunch of individuals who are kind of doing their best. But is that really organized enough to really compete against Fox News and such? So they definitely feel threatened by a bunch of us channels like this. But we are also beholden to Google, who owns YouTube. So let me know down in the comments down below, one, whether the flag should stay for a fairly long term or whether it should come down immediately. And also kind of what you guys think about what we can do to push back against the news media empire out there. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from the channel, there's one right up here. If you want to find out more about how you can switch your spending over to better companies, cleaner companies with less chemicals and everything like that, you can fill out the form here, and someone from our team will actually reach out to you and chat with you about what options are in the switch campaign. But thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.